People often think you have to work or live in Japan to become fluent in Japanese, but that is certainly not true. I was able to achieve a high level of Japanese without living or traveling to Japan. While it certainly helps, the right mindset and approach to learning will get you much further than living in Japan alone. In this video, I'll be sharing 10 things I did to go from being just another Japanese learner to domo, osewa ni narimasu, full-fledged Japanese speaker. If you're new here and you're like, who are you to be talking about this? Welcome, I'm Chloe. I've been learning Japanese for 3 years. I passed JLPT N3 in my first 7 months of learning, reached B2 in a year, and passed JLPT N1 in 2.5 years. For those who don't know, the JLPT is a test that's widely recognized in Japan as a measure of Japanese proficiency. N3 is the intermediate level and N1 is the top most advanced level. Now without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I did from day one all the way up until now is I structured my learning. I made sure I always knew exactly what I was learning, whether that was grammar, vocabulary, kanji, cultural knowledge, or immersion. A mistake I see a lot of learners make is that they don't study with any structure. What ends up happening is that they see something they don't understand in Japanese, they search it up, see it, maybe take notes on it, and rinse and repeat and call that studying. Structuring your studies means following some kind of learning roadmap, whether that's an online course or a textbook. This will keep you on a steady path where you're building your knowledge over time and gradually increasing the difficulty, instead of jumping between learning different things at different levels, which is what leads to gaps in knowledge. I followed the structure of the Genki textbooks, then moved on to Tobira before shifting entirely to native immersion and JLPT specific prep material. Number 2 is I used a variety of learning materials. The one perfect Japanese learning material doesn't exist. There, I said it. What I mean is that there isn't one single textbook, course, teacher, or program out there that will cover every single thing you need. You have to understand that different forms of learning are good for different things. That's why it's important to use multiple learning materials so that you can learn in a more holistic way. Textbooks are great for building knowledge, but they lack interactivity and speaking output. Teachers are great for speaking output, but maybe a bit slow-paced for those who prefer faster learning. Every learning method has its strengths and limitations. So I think it's important to use a bit of everything to cover all of your bases and propel your learning forward as efficiently as possible. I've done both online and in-person tutoring, textbooks, apps and programs, and I found this really helpful in building my skills up in different areas. Connecting with that, the third thing I did, which was arguably one of the best decisions I made for my learning, was investing in a private tutor. This doesn't have to be expensive, you can find one near you or online. While I was still living in Australia, I didn't have any chances to speak Japanese outside of these lessons. A private tutor isn't just someone to speak to. Unlike a friend, they're fully focused on helping you improve. They're there to fix any bad speaking habits, correct your mistakes, and guide you forward. Not just that, but arguably the biggest merit to hiring a private tutor is that they will help you get over that initial fear of starting to speak Japanese. When you're learning a new language at first, it can feel extremely daunting to speak it. You're worried about making mistakes, sounding like a beginner, sounding unnatural. It's a nervous system response, and the only way to get over it is to actually do it. And the more you do it, the less you will tense up and freeze in a real-life conversation. I had one pretty early on, from about the 3rd month up until right before I passed my N1. Number 4, and this one is underrated, is I journaled my thoughts in Japanese. Journaling is not only therapeutic, but it's a great way to verbalize your thoughts without the real-time pressure and nervous response of a real-life conversation. You stop trying to sound smart or correct and are instead focusing on how to express your feelings. Because when you're writing about your day, whether you're tired, happy, sad, proud, or excited, your brain is automatically connecting Japanese words to emotions and concepts. It takes you out of the habit of thinking, am I using the right grammar, to how do I express this emotion or thought in Japanese? And that small shift is what helps vocabulary cling to your memory because you're using it naturally. And remember, you're not trying to be perfect. You don't need eloquent essays. Just your own raw thoughts are perfectly fine. As you get better at this, you can make a point to practice using new grammar points, and then it'll stop feeling abstract as you use it. Writing is getting you used to doing something called gengoka, which is forming thoughts and sentences in Japanese, which in turn helps you become more confident when you then go to speak it. It's basically training yourself to turn your thoughts into words, i.e. Japanese. That's a skill that works whether you're writing or speaking. Doing this really helped me to start thinking in Japanese instead of relying on translating back and forth. The fifth thing kind of connects to the last two, but what I did was early output. Even when my Japanese was limited, I made sure to apply what I knew to form sentences. Brute forcing yourself to memorize vocabulary isn't really efficient. The best way to remember vocabulary is by using it frequently, it becomes natural, and then gradually expanding your vocabulary by adding more words and applying it to your own Japanese. Sometimes I think I should have started output even earlier because I took several months to get over my fear of speaking Japanese. Output is what will help you get used to turning your thoughts and feelings into Japanese, which in turn improves your speaking and writing skills. Number 6 is arguably the most important one, and that is I stayed consistent. When you first start learning, it all feels exciting and new and somewhat easy. I think in the beginning, you kind of get caught up in the end goal of being fluent, speaking with locals, understanding shows. You don't really imagine the messy middle part of the journey where you're learning, making mistakes, and struggling. It's so important to stay consistent no matter what the language throws at you. Some things might stick immediately, others might take longer, and some things might feel like they won't stick no matter what you do. Just remember that no matter what, if you continue, you will inevitably improve. It's literally inevitable. Another thing I've heard a lot of learners talk about, and I've experienced myself, is the intermediate plateau. In my opinion, this isn't just one singular plateau, but a series of them. This happens when you reach certain points in your learning where maybe you're slowing down, you're not expanding your grammar and vocabulary as quick as you once were, and you're taking longer to just grasp new concepts. It's that awkward in-between stage where you've got a good grasp of the basics to the point where they feel a bit repetitive, but new concepts haven't quite settled in yet. I went through this multiple times on my own journey, and it's really important to not allow yourself to fall into a comfort zone of Japanese where you're just falling back onto the same grammar and vocabulary, but maintain that same level of curiosity you had towards Japanese as earlier on in your journey, when everything was still fresh and new. Number 7 was I used spaced repetition to memorize new information. The spaced repetition learning method is essential for learning the 3 alphabets, kanji, and new vocabulary because it's optimized for maximum memory retention. Especially in the beginning stages, using an app like MochiKana, which utilizes spaced repetition, can help you master hiragana and katakana in just 1 week. When you're expected to know 92 new letters just to begin learning basic Japanese, it can feel overwhelming at first. Instead of throwing them at you all at once, MochiKana divides hiragana and katakana into bite-sized lessons, where you can learn just a few kana at a time with fun games, audios, and descriptions. MochiKana helps kickstart your learning with their unique golden time feature. This is based on the spaced repetition learning method, which is proven to help you retain information by reminding you to study at the optimal intervals. MochiKana divides vocabulary and characters into 5 categories in the digital notebook, from level 1 being just learned to 5 being in your long-term memory. MochiKanji will analyze your learning history to calculate your golden time, which is the time your brain can memorize the best. The lessons are arranged to look like a fun little adventure you don't want to miss out on. And the kana aren't just in some random order, they're intentionally ordered to maximize your learning. You know how much I keep talking about structure, and this is absolutely invaluable. Learning the Japanese alphabets feel way less overwhelming when you can see yourself progress through the stages, and before you know it, you've chipped your way through all the different characters. You're able to practice writing all hiragana and katakana step by step with stroke order so that you can build good writing habits. Some people think stroke order isn't important or it only matters for kanji, but that's not true. Correct stroke order ensures your Japanese looks right, and building good habits should start from the very beginning. MochiKana has practice lessons after you finish learning all characters in the lesson to help you remember them and improve muscle memory. MochiKana is available via the App Store or Google Play Store, or you can access the desktop version, which I will link in the description. The 8th thing I did was I created an immersive Japanese environment. If you can't be in Japan, bring Japan to you. You want to make sure you're exposed to Japanese as much as possible on the daily, even if you don't understand everything. I did this by setting my phone to Japanese, watching Japanese content if I was scrolling on TikTok, playing Japanese podcasts or music instead of English music in the car, and watching shows with Japanese subs instead of English subs. I would eliminate English from my environment as much as possible and switch everything over to Japanese. And if there was a word or kanji I didn't know, I would immediately search it up. I noticed that when I would keep my brain in Japanese mode for extended periods of time, I had a much easier time absorbing and learning naturally because that part of my brain was already switched on and ready to go. The 9th thing I did a lot in my earlier days was shadowing native speakers. I would watch Japanese shows and dramas, and whenever the actors said something that I was like, oh, maybe I could use this, I would pause the video and try to say it exactly like they did. With the same intonation, pronunciation, I would replay and repeat it out loud multiple times. When I took Japanese classes during my homestay, I remember at school we would shadow the audio from a shadowing textbook. There would be a conversation dialogue and we'd look at the script and say the lines with the audio over and over. It felt silly at first, but what this is doing is it's getting you used to reflexively speaking Japanese. The more you do it, the less you're actively thinking about it and just reacting instead. The 10th and last thing I did, which doesn't sound all that impressive, is I literally just studied. For the first year or so, when I was really building that foundational knowledge, textbooks and flashcards with spaced repetition was really the bulk of that. A lot of people say that textbooks teach robotic, unnatural Japanese, but what textbooks are actually teaching you is just no-frills Japanese. This is the bare bones, very grammatically accurate Japanese. It's not teaching you TikTok slang or gyaru lingo, it's teaching you Japanese in its very base form as it's spoken. When you're still building your basics, it's reinforcing the fundamentals so that as you start getting better, you can add your slang and whatever you want to it. Speaking Japanese naturally and conversationally is something that will come with experience once you have a solid grasp of the basics. And when I wasn't using textbooks, I was always reviewing my flashcards. I'd squeeze this in whenever I had free time, like during a commute, a few minutes before bed, or in the morning. I'd highly recommend flashcards with spaced repetition, but if you're not using that, make sure you're not just learning new words every day, seeing them once and never again. You have to constantly review what you've learned so that it stays fresh in your memory. So these are the 10 things I did to become fluent in Japanese. Keep in mind that this is just what worked for me. It may or may not work for you. So my suggestion to you is to take what you think you'd like to apply to your own learning. Remember, your language learning journey is yours and yours only. You're not in competition with anyone else, and if you work hard, your fluency will be inevitable. All the best for your learning, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more future content like this, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye!